What makes a good cash flow note? The value of a real estate note, which is what I'm going to concentrate on in this, depends ultimately on the economic conditions that support the value of the property. Let me say that again. The value of a real estate note depends ultimately on the economic conditions that support the value of the property. Let me give you some examples, some ideas so you see how this works out. An owner-occupied single-family house in a good neighborhood located in an area with a diversified, long-term, stable economy is the best collateral you can have. It's further enhanced by a payer who has an excellent credit record and an unblemished payment history. Less desirable collateral in descending order, owner-occupied duplexes or triplexes, and by that I mean the owner lives in one of the units, non-owner-occupied single-family homes, non-owner-occupied duplexes or triplexes, other non-owner-occupied multi-family units, improved land, commercial but not industrial properties, resort properties, subdivided but unimproved lots, raw land. Obviously, some investors would use slightly different hierarchies for those. Those are my opinions based on my experience. Due to the current regulatory environment in the United States, industrial properties and properties with other potential toxic problems such as underground fuel tanks have many potential liabilities. Notes secured by such properties I avoid and most investors avoid. Cooperatives, timeshares, mobile homes without real estate particularly, and personal property are not real estate and by themselves can be very risky investments. There are a few corporate investors for such notes, and they're in our PaperSource registry of note investors. Another issue is investment to value ratio. The higher the investment to value ratio, the riskier the note. Now what is investment to value ratio? You may have heard of LTV, loan to value. It's similar, but the ITV, investment to value ratio, is the amount paid for the note, the amount that you paid for that note, plus any senior lien balance, if there is a first mortgage on it already, divided by the fair market value of the property. That's how you calculate your ITV, investment to value ratio. And the higher that is, the riskier the investment. If there's little or no appreciation in the property, the loan to value ratio or the investment to value ratio, either one in this case, is a barometer of the likelihood of default. Another issue is notes on property, or what makes a good note. Notes on property purchased for $1,000 down or less very often default. The higher the down payment, the better. An amortized note is more valuable than one with a balloon. Since the payer may not be able to make the balloon payment, you may have to renegotiate and get into a situation that you would rather not be in. The single most powerful financial aspect determining the value of the note is the amount of the monthly payment. For example, everything else being equal, a 10-year note with a large monthly payment and no balloon is worth more than a 10-year note with a smaller monthly payment and a balloon. And a note in the first lien position, quite obviously, is worth more than a note in the second or third lien position. Actually, third lien notes or lower are worth very little. A second lien note with a huge balanced first lien is avoided by most investors. There are some that will invest in those, however. Because in the case of foreclosure, the second lien owner, if you own that second note, you're going to have to make the payments on the first or possibly pay it off completely in order not to be shut out of the deal. A seasoned note with a payment history of several years or more is better than a green note. A green note meaning one with little or no payment history. That's pretty self-evident. The payer's credit history or credit score is an important indication to help you determine the character of the payer and the likelihood of default, but it is not infallible. Everyone, even people who have the best credit, the highest credit scores, they can lose their jobs, they can have medical emergencies or suffer other catastrophes and stop paying on the note. The best test of a credit report, the best use of a credit report is to identify a potential bankruptcy candidate. Another point, my final point about what makes a good note, a second note behind an assumable first, if you can find such a thing, is always to be preferred over one behind one that's not an assumable first. So again, and to wrap this up, the value of a note depends ultimately on the economic conditions that support the value of the property. So these are just some of the factors to weigh when considering a note. For an in-depth subject treatment of this subject, see the essential, what we call the Essential Guide, Lorelei's Legal Lessons by Lorelei Stevens, and that's on our website. If you go to the store on our website at papersourceonline.com.